My name is Michael Coates. I'm a former firefighter, but I'm also a former soldier. And it's the stories from the individuals within this military community that I'm desperate to document. In this episode, I speak with a fabricator welder who now runs one of the world's leading training equipment companies. We talk about the start of BeaverFit, endurance sport, and why the loss of a close family member changed his life forever. We also speak about functional training, shipping containers, community, and supporting those who serve. Episode 51, Tom Beaver. This is Declassified. Born in 1981.
Yeah, I was born in Shrewsbury Hospital in 1981 and lived on a farm out near Church Stretton, a place called Walk Mills. Lived with my mum and dad, two brothers, and my grandparents were on the farm at the same time. Lived there and went to school locally until I was 8, and then went to school up in Scotland, a prep school, when I was 8, and was there till I was 13, and then went to sort of more senior school from that point.
So if you go right back then, so was the family, was it a farming family?
We were a farming family initially. My grandparents and my dad, they were milk farmers, dairy farmers. But they transitioned out of dairy farming into steel work for agriculture. So it was more sort of buildings and repairing of buckets and whatever was needed for agricultural business at that time, cattle grids, things like that. That's what they sort of turned their hand into. So the business moved from a sort of agricultural dairy farm into sort of steel work.
And you was around all that growing up as little?
I was around. I wasn't around with the dairy farming, but I was when it became into the sort of steel side of the house. And I'd spend a lot of time when I was younger out in the truck with my old man, visiting different farms, whether it's delivering of concrete pipes for drainage or whether it's delivering and installing cattle grids into local farms. Or if I wasn't in there, I was in the workshop with my brother. He was in there pretty regularly as well, grinding, cutting, driving forklifts, all the stuff probably shouldn't be doing at that age, but we were thrown in the deep end.
And that's what as like 5-6-year-olds you were out with your dad?
5, 6, yeah. It obviously got a little bit later on that we were actually working, but 5 and 6 we were messing around down there and helping out where we could. Probably weren't in the workshop or driving things at that point, but yeah, it was always pushed into us to get out and work. And before you went to prep school, was it a physical childhood? Was you outdoors a lot? Yeah, outside all the time. Outside either helping with the family business or Dad's got donkeys, so we were out working, doing stuff with the donkeys, mucking them out or feeding or whatever it is, or horses. He had horses at that point as well. So yeah, we were outside a lot, to be honest, growing up.
Yeah, was it an affluent childhood?
Yeah, we were very lucky. We were privileged, had a privileged childhood, but there was a lot of work involved as well. I mean, we would certainly made sure that we understood how to graft and how to work. We did, we didn't go without, and we certainly had a decent childhood and got, really a lot of what we wanted, I guess, and did things that maybe a lot of other kids don't get the opportunity to do.
And then, I mean, that leads you then to kind of boarding school, really. Your dad's, like you said, a grafter, and he's working hard to provide for his family. Was it a wrench then? Was it hard to kind of go to boarding school, so especially so far away?
I think from my side, my older brother had already gone. He'd spent 2 years up there, and as a younger sibling, I think I just wanted to go and join him, and so it was quite exciting, to be honest. And I massively enjoyed it. Pretty sporty. Played a lot of rugby. There was opportunities to do a lot of hill walking, camping, canoeing, a lot of outward bounds. That's what the school was based around, is outward bounds and skiing and activities like that. So I think from a parent's point of view, they thought give them the best chance they could. Probably couldn't afford to do it, but they'd go for it and go up there and make the most of it. So when we went up there, we thoroughly took advantage and went for it, really.
Have you ever spoke to your mum about it and what the effect it had on her?
Yeah, they didn't like it. Definitely affected them when we went off so young. And myself and my older brother are quite similar in as much as we're both quite outward bound guys. And played a lot of sport. Younger brother, he definitely didn't get he didn't enjoy it anything like what we did, and that definitely affected. I could, when we'd go to the airport to be put on a plane to fly up to Inverness or Aberdeen to then go to school. He would be upset quite a lot, and that definitely had an effect on the parents.
Did you look after him?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I could. As much as I could, yeah. And then he suddenly grew bigger than me, and
oh, really?
Yeah, so he looked after himself after a while.
But it's interesting. I've got a little brother. He's bigger than me now, but you're still looking after each other. And he got bullied at school and all this. It was my responsibility to try and look after that, and especially in that environment, very. Am I right in saying like a masculine environment?
Yes.
Especially when you're talking there for rugby and there's bullying involved and all the rest.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty masculine, but there was it was females there. It was a co-ed school. So it was, I think we didn't really know anything else other than that. And your boarding and the things that you get up to while you're at school and what you do at the time, you don't even see it as maybe bullying or anything like that. In fact, probably quite enjoyed it. It was more like just, get stuck into it and be part of it and make the most of it without realizing that actually some guys can't take that and don't enjoy it, whereas others do and thrive on it, to be honest.
Yeah, your secondary school was Gordonston, is that
Gordonston,
right?
yeah.
Gordonston.
Yeah.
So the first time I'd seen that was in The Crown.
Yeah.
And is that a tale of two halves then? Because you're a normal guy that's gone up there. Are you aware that there's wealth, or is there wealth, and what is the divide with all that?
Well, there certainly is wealth there, like any sort of independent public school. But when you're there and you're in it, actually, everyone's in the same boat. And some of the lads who have mega money, go there with very little, and everyone's in the same boat. Everyone has the same things, and you can't, just because you're such and such from X family or whatever it is, that doesn't really make any difference when you're there. So you don't really realise it, to be honest. Maybe the difference is when you go back, and I go back to the farm in Shropshire, rural Shropshire, and someone else goes onto his yacht in wherever it is. That sort of thing happens, but you don't really realise it, to be fair.
And is there an alignment of values then? Are people being brought up by the school with good values and purpose and meaning and all the rest of it?
Yeah, everyone sings in the same way, and I think when you're there, it doesn't matter who you are, you all go through the same sort of run and the same sort of race, I guess, to be honest. You play the same sports, you're in the same boarding houses, you eat in the same place, so everyone goes through that same I guess, daily life, and it doesn't really make any difference who you are or where you've come from while you're there. And I think that's a lot of people quite enjoy that, to be honest. Everyone's on the same even pegging field.
Yeah. Well, what I was getting through there are you in it together as a team?
Yes. Oh yeah, your year group, you definitely feel very bonded to. And, if there's a year above or whatever it is that are in any way, shape or form picking on someone in there, then you sort of bond and stick together. And actually, sometimes you just see it as a bit of fun. And I guess you just bond together and think, it is what it is. And everyone gets on with it. And it isn't escalated into anything other than just a group of lads in a boarding house with a pecking order. And that's kind of, I guess, the same you get in a military or you get in anywhere, to be honest. Yeah,
or, in a rugby team. It's
absolutely.
Just, you're this team and there's an aim and an objective to get to. I'm not going to dwell too much about schooling, but I think it's worth saying, did it make you, because you was out in the kind of wild and the wilderness, I suppose, are you being exposed to stuff? Are you being exposed to cold water? Are you becoming, I suppose you're becoming more robust, really, and tougher?
You certainly get, you get, well, you're in the younger years, you certainly know about it, like, cold showers, if you're referring to that, or whatever it is. That does happen, or it did happen, certainly when I was there. If you were late into a shower room or something, seniors come in and you're under a cold shower. But to be honest, I think it was just part and parcel. And yeah, you get exposed to it. There's morning runs. There was all sorts of things that just the school sort of bred into you. And I guess you could change the way you are on a sports pitch or something. You could play in the years above or wherever it is, and that would help because you would be working, playing with guys a little bit older. But yeah, it's you get exposed to it. There's certain things I think at the school which were fantastic, and like I went off to Australia when I was 14 on a 6-month exchange to a school over there. It was on the Gold Coast. Couldn't have been a nicer place. Rugby was the main sport, which was a massive part of my life, and I absolutely loved it. I wanted to stay there, to be honest, but mum and dad were like, that's a bit too far. Come back.
Yeah. Did you have good times then when you came back home? Did you enjoy being?
Yeah, we had great times, to be honest. A lot of friends would come and stay, or you'd go and stay at friends' houses. The old man made sure you did a fair bit of work as well. But certainly enjoyed it when we came back, and you really look forward to it. And I think you appreciated your parents, what they do, and how much they put into making sure that you come first.
Have you got close family as well? Around you, you've got aunties, uncles.
Yeah, we're a pretty close knit family, to be honest. But unfortunately, it's with auntie and uncles. We know them, and we were very close when we were younger with them, and as we've grown a little bit older, grown a bit apart, but certainly we're very, very close when we were younger. Yeah.
And did you do family holidays, or was it mainly centric around coming back and working? Not going to see friends and family, but I'm trying to get the picture of you being at home in your 7 week holiday and things like that.
Yeah, we always went on a family holiday when we got back. In the summer, in particular, mum and dad always made sure we went on a family holiday, which were fantastic. Always some of the best parts of growing up, to be honest. When you remember with your brothers and parents and so on, that was a fantastic time, to be honest.
And then you went to uni 2001.
Yes.
What did you study there?
Architectural technology.
Are you clever? Are you good at academics?
No, not really. Pretty badly dyslexic, and actually, while I was at school, all I focused on was really rugby. I played rugby under 16s for Scotland, 2 years of Scottish schoolboys, and then actually I had a scholarship to a particular university in Edinburgh called Heriot Watt, and that's where I thought I was going to go. I had a full scholarship, and at the same time we were going on tour for rugby through New Zealand for 8 weeks. As soon as we left, did our A-levels. So all I did was put my effort into playing rugby. I didn't put any effort into academics at all. Came back from my tour, which was great. And then got my results, weren't particularly good. So ended up at a different university doing something I had no interest in, but I wanted to be in Edinburgh to play rugby. And that was my sole sort of purpose of getting there, to be honest.
And then what else did Edinburgh bring? Did it bring freedom? Did it bring a different culture? What?
Edinburgh is an amazing city. So it was a great place to have 4 years. My wife, she was at Stirling University, so that was good because she was only about an hour away. And Edinburgh is a big rugby city. So for me, when I came back from going on tour when I finished school, straight into a Premiership 1 club in Edinburgh, and that's all I wanted to do was play rugby, really. And it was a great city, great time, loads of freedom, to be honest. And yeah, just messed around and played rugby, really.
Can I just take you to 2004? Can I ask you to talk about your cousin, who he was?
So my cousin is a guy called Blake Hartley. He grew up in Shropshire as well. Very close family. When we were younger with him, had a lot of every Christmas we'd have with Blake and his sister Maria, and we grew up alongside them. I spent a lot of time with them, and he went to university in Reading, and then he went to Sandhurst. And while he was at Sandhurst, in their final term at this point, I don't know if it still happens now, but he went and did an expedition. He went and did an expedition over in Chamonix, Mont Blanc area, and he was 25. And 2 days after his 25th birthday, while he was there, he went missing. I went out with my older brother to go and search for him along with his mum and his stepdad. We joined the Sandhurst crew while we were there, spent, I guess, a week searching for him. And actually, Henry and I ended up driving his car back from Chamonix to back to Shropshire. So it was a pretty gut-wrenching time, to be honest.
What's it like to search for someone?
It was pretty emotional, for one. Seeing his mum like she was hard. Being close to Blake, it was a big sort of void feeling. And to be honest, all we wanted to do is find. But at the same time, being realistic, I think we thought that was him gone somewhere. And I remember questions were like, had he gone and joined the French Foreign Legion, or had he just disappeared, or had he been mugged? And the missing element is probably the worst thing, in my opinion, you can have is someone close to you go missing.
Does hope dwindle the longer it goes on, especially that first week?
Yeah, hope certainly did. But the guys from the military as well, they were, they certainly, there wasn't any talk of being hopeful particularly. They had no idea. They had no idea what happened to him. They went out for a night out and then he never returned. So, that opens your imagination to all sorts of things. There's a big river that runs through Chamonix, and it was in the summer. And they have a lot of logs that, they cut down logs further upstream and they float them down the river. So everyone was saying, perhaps he's fallen in the river. Maybe that's the reason. But Blake was a really sensible lad. He had lived in Chamonix for 8 weeks or something like that. The year before, he knew the place inside out. He was massively into his climbing, so no one sort of expected that he would have fallen in there through his own sort of accord. So yeah.
Do you when you're searching like that? Because I've had when the kids have gone off in a supermarket and you get this like gut wrench, like bloody, and it lasts for a couple of seconds. Do you get that? Do you feel like you've seen someone in the distance? Do you get those images, as you're searching?
I didn't really at the time. I can relate to kids going. I've been to a park. My daughter went missing as well for all about 3 minutes. It was the worst time ever. But one of the days we must have covered about 30 miles along the river, and I searched one side, whereas other guys were leapfrogging all around. It just becomes, I think everything becomes, is that a body in there? Is that someone there? But the longer you do it, the less sort of you get that sort of gut reaction to it, I think.
When was it, and when and who? So when was it, and who kind of called that search off? When is that decision made?
Well, the search, I think the guys from Sandhurst went back to the UK around 10 days afterwards. We went back about a week afterwards, and there was a guy, actually, I believe he was an ex-policeman, who believed that he had seen a body in the river, who searched the river literally every day, walking his dogs. And he continued to do that for 3 years until he found a femur bone, which actually was Blake's.
Oh, it actually was his bone?
Yeah. They did DNA and that was his bone. And that's what we ended up burying was his bone.
That was 3 years after?
3 years after, yeah.
What is that? Are you in any... What are you doing in between that? You as an individual, what are you doing in between that?
Well, I think for obviously myself being a cousin, it's affected the family massively. I certainly can't relate to what his parents went through and his sister and so on. But from my side, I could see the pain and I could feel how bad it was. So I tried to raise a bit of money for missing people. I'd done quite a lot of marathons in my time. I've done Ironman, triathlons, and so on. And I wanted to do something that was pretty big for me to do, that I'd have to suffer to try and make people, feel a little bit that I'm doing something worthwhile. So I ran a multi-stage race in the Sahara Desert, and then I did an event called the Arch to Arc, which is a large triathlon that starts in the Marble Arch. You run down to Dover, which is 87 miles, swim the English Channel, and then cycle to the Arc de Triomphe. So I was the fifth guy to do that. But I wanted to do, if I was going to go up to someone and say, look, I'd like you to donate to charity, and I wanted to make sure that it was worthwhile. From that, I was going to go make sure I went through the ringer to accept donations. To be honest,
I think so you went back to what you knew, really,
exactly.
Suffering physically.
Exactly, yeah. So something I felt comfortable in a weird kind of way, and something I enjoy doing, and I still do a lot of endurance today. But I certainly want to do something that I found a bit sort of maybe natural to a degree. I'm no incredible athlete, but I can suffer quite well. So that was my main thing. I completely underestimated the arch to arc in every way, shape, and form. To be honest, I signed up, saw that a few guys had done it. I think 4 guys had done it before myself. Rolled in and literally did three or 4 channel swims beforehand down in Weymouth. Did my 8-hour swim, and then I'd never even swum from Dover. Never even realised quite how epic that swim was going to be. After 87 miles of running down to Dover, my feet were in clip. I was in a pretty bad way. Had 4 or 5 hours, and at that time, when you swim the channel, you get you've become a swimmer 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on a certain support boat. And the guy I had was a guy called Neil Streeter, who his sister has swum the channel the most times. Very, very experienced guide, in best words, for swimming the channel.
So a pilot, like a
pilot boat, yeah. So you have a boat that goes right next to you. And he just rung me up and said, look, weather's awful, but it's doable. So you either have a choice, you go now, or you say, no, I won't go, and you then he'll ring up number 2 and give him the option. So I was like, I'm in, straight in. So got on the boat, it takes you round out of the bay. You have to swim back into shore, and then basically you head off. I'd done an 8-hour swim. In my head, I thought 16 hours, I should be in 16 hours. It actually took 22 hours to swim the channel, and it was horrendous. I was sick regularly. Had to learn how to basically swim and throw up as I was swimming. So
was the waves? Was it
was
rough?
the waves.
Was it bashing into
the waves were awful, but also the salt water. I just got seasick, really badly seasick. What did make me feel better was, as I was watching the pilot boat, most people on there were being sick as well because the weather was so bad. But yeah, and basically I got within 200 meters of the French coast, and the guy who was the invigilator for the arch to arc said to me, what do you want, the good or bad news? And I said, well, the good news. So he's like, well, you're 200 meters from the French coast. And I thought, amazing, I'm going to swim this in. When the bad news is the tide has changed and you've now got to swim for another 8 hours. And that was a big pill to swallow and a real shit time, to be fair.
And you did?
Yeah, swam it in, yeah. And normally you swim into Normandy because the tide pushes you right out. But actually I finished right in front on Cali Beach. So from Shakespeare Beach to Cali Beach. And there was a massive ferry boat coming out at the same time. And I don't really remember much of it. I just pushed it in. To the best I could.
How long was it then from the bad news? Was it 8 hours?
It was about 8. It could have been more, 8 or 9 hours, yeah. It was pretty bad times, to be honest.
I've known about you then for several years because my friend who has also done the arch to arc, I butlered for his first attempt on the crossing.
Okay, yeah.
He did it the year after. And he taught, and it's only now that I've realised it's you, but he was telling, if you get it wrong, some guy swam for 8 hours just off the coast. If you get it wrong, that
that was me.
So that was you.
Yeah, I actually got a channel swimming trophy for I think it was the bravest swim, but I thought it was the shittest swim of the year, to be honest. Just need to be a bit quicker.
Or stupidest.
Yeah, exactly.
You can look at that in different ways. But you had that purpose, didn't you? You were doing it really for your cousin and to make sure that people don't go through. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't
going to do it again. So it was, and actually the guy who was ferrying the boat said to me, do you have one wish? And I said, well, if my arms are turning, then just leave me in. And if they're not, then drag us out. But to be fair, he was good to his word, because I think after about 18 hours, that's the point. Normally they're like finished. He was like, well, his arms are still turning. Leave him in.
It's a dangerous thing, the crossing.
Yeah.
Especially if your body's shutting down after nearly 90 miles of running.
Yes.
You know that as well, but it's a dangerous thing to do. So it's good. It's amazing to have that overwatch, really. And
I also think, great to have the overwatch, but from my perspective, I think it was just a naivety. I had no idea. Maybe if I knew about it, it would have been different. But just, I think going into something like that, a little bit naive or a little bit stupid with it is actually sometimes quite good.
This is where the Arch to Arc was almost kind of the founding of what we're going to talk about, because this is when you fabricated the first rig, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I while I was training for the Arch to Arc, my job was I was in the family business. At this point, we had concentrating on building steel bridges was our business, Beaver Bridges, and my brother, my dad was sort of getting the sales and doing the installations and running the main thing. And I was working in the fabrication side of it, actually doing the hands-on welding, fabricating, building the bridges and going out and then doing the installations. And while I was training for the Arch to Arc, I off a bit of cutting really from a steel bridges railing, put together some real makeshift agricultural style rig, put it in a field on the farm, which is still there today. And I just do real sort of mongrel workouts really off that, pull-ups, hill sprints, sandbag carries, all the sort of stuff, which probably, I'm not sure how much helped me with it, but it was in my head, it was keeping me a little bit lean and keeping me mentally that I was training. I'd do it in my lunchtime workouts and then I'd go back to the workshop carrying on working. But outside of that, I swam and obviously ran. Those are my really how I worked out and how I trained for the Arch to Arc. And when I finished it, I thought, you know what, it's a pretty ugly concept right here, but there could be something with this that actually would turn into a living. I can either continue to stay in the fabrication side of the house, which actually I thoroughly enjoyed, building steel bridges with the family, or maybe do something that I actually really have a massive passion for, which is fitness. So I looked at that bit of equipment and thought, let's refine it. So I came up with a refined model, which had a couple of squat racks on either side, monkey bar section down the middle, and they're called we called them wings off the side of it, where you could hang rings and do muscle ups, or you could do plyometric style pull-ups, and thought, you know what, galvanize it, make it out of thick steel, and then present it to the most robust industry in the whole of the UK, which is the MOD, and see what the military think of this. I had a passion from the military side. When I was at university, I did reserve selection and had a couple of contacts. And at the same time, CrossFit was just beginning, and I had a few friends who were setting up CrossFit gyms. So I was building, makeshift style rigs for them as well. But I managed to get myself in front of one of the units and present this concept. The funny thing was, at the time, the guy was like, I don't like salesmen. And don't mess me around. I'm real busy and just get on with it, basically. I went in there and I was like, I'm not a salesman. I'm actually a welder fabricator. And probably the best way to show this model is to actually work out on it. So everyone worked out on it. There were a lot of members of this unit there. Everyone's calluses ripped, blood all over the frame. I thought, genuinely, that's it. This is not going to take off. I'll have to go back to doing what I was doing beforehand. But afterwards, actually, their feedback was massively positive, and they said, "Look, this is great. How much is it?" I had no idea. I just sort of threw a figure at them, left that one there, and then they ordered 3 more. So built 3 more and delivered them, and actually just went back to the old job, which was working in the family business with the bridge building. But then got a call from some guy who was down in the parachute regiment, down in Colchester, and said, "Look, I've seen this bit of equipment. Could you build me one? I'm not too sure what it is really, but if it's good enough for these guys, we need one." So bartered a bit of, whatever money he had, sorted it out, and built him one. At this point, they were still pretty agricultural, to be fair. They were pillar drilled, not laser cut. It was really time consuming. We painted them, and anyway, took them down, delivered it, and just went back to doing what we were doing beforehand. But that was the sort of start of the fitness side of the house for the business. And
was all this going through the bridge company?
It was all going through the bridge company, exactly. But we were calling it BeaverFit because...
Oh, even back then it was BeaverFit?
Yeah, because people were asking what its name was, and I couldn't come up with, it's Beaver Bridges. So I was just like, it's BeaverFit. So I didn't really, but it was just part of the bridge company.
There was no marketing department that came up with that name.
There was no marketing, yeah. There was no business plan.
Yeah.
There was just, this is the lads love this sort of training. And actually you see, you know how quickly you get results from functional training. There wasn't one rig in the army at the time. There was nothing. People weren't training like that. They were just old school style training, either isolated muscle groups or tabbing. So
well, yeah, and I don't even think it was old school. I think I think it was a little bit soft. I think we'd gone into this, this generic gym mode, like what you said, pec deck.
Yes,
and it wasn't beefy.
Yeah, you're right. You'd go in there, and it was almost like a little bit of a wellness suite. Whereas my theory of training is I've always trained, and I've always had a passion for keep it simple, keep it easy, and keep and get the heart rate up and work hard with it. But that certainly wasn't the case when I started going around the MOD, and actually it was quite funny because I would find myself sometimes in front of maybe 500 people doing a CO's workout with a tiny little rig, with no background of physical training, just pure sort of like passion with it, with a apprenticeship guy who was apprenticeship welder a guy called Goose. We nicknamed him Goose, but he was a great sort of athlete, but he was only 16 years old, and I'd be talking through movements while he'd be demonstrating these movements on the rig. And then we'd get groups up and get them to feel it and see whether they enjoyed it and stuff.
You registered the business in 2010?
Yes.
Is that when it started moving? Is that when the business started going? Was you still working building bridges again, or was it a mix of both, or
we were doing a mix of both, to be honest, and it wasn't really until 2012 that we properly went right. We're going to have a BeaverFit side of the business, and we're going to have a Beaver Bridges side of the business. So we had a couple of years of a bit of an overlap where we were pulling on resources, both pulling on different resources. The bridge team always thought they were, the more important side. We always thought we were the more important side. But yeah, there was definitely a stage where I think, to be honest, we just thought actually it could be a bit of a sideline, just maybe a hobby company working alongside the bridges and supplementing because when you're building big steel structures, whatever it is, you have a period where, the steel's going out the factory, a whole load of steel, and you're cleaning everything up, and then a whole load more comes back in. And in that period, we were cracking out as many rigs and racks as we could, putting them on trailers and going and delivering them or taking them to powder coating and so on, and then put back in the steel for the bridges.
And was it all word of mouth?
Yes, it was all word of mouth. We had no marketing. There was nothing out there really. It was just.
Was it all military as well?
The majority was military, and we were doing a few CrossFit gyms as well. So, but the majority was military. We started working a lot with the sort of some side of the army, but the Navy actually clocked onto it very quickly. And the Navy, obviously, it's a lot smaller than the army. And through the PTI network within the Navy, they were a really good bunch and just sort of, introduce you to the next guy, and before you knew it, you'd pretty much filled all the Navy gyms. But then what was interesting is they wanted to put gyms on the ships, and they looked at these sort of concepts. We had a very, very basic concept, but the captain never wanted to put something out on his deck that he could see because it was a pretty ugly structure. So that through working with the Navy PTIs, we came up with a concept where we had a gym in a box where we could literally open the big chest up. You could build out your rack. You could store your kettlebells and accessories inside it. You could do your workout, and from this one thing, you could probably work out 10 people from it, and then you could pack it all away again and then shove it in a cupboard. So it was a nice concept that sort of served both purposes.
Was it a metal box?
A metal box, yeah.
And 2014, the US wanted a piece.
Yeah, so what happened was I went around a lot of gyms within the MOD, concentrated hard for about 6 months with Young Goose, actually, this apprenticeship guy. And we went to as many gyms as we could within the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, wherever it was, and was trying to introduce functional training through rigs and racks and lifting kettlebells and sandbags and so on. Some of them had already got into that kind of way of training, but it was the feedback was phenomenal, and you could really feel there was a bit of an undercurrent of really positiveness. However, everyone was saying, look, what about a deployable bit of equipment? We really need something that can deploy. And this one rig that we had we called it the Commander rig, which basically was 12 nuts and bolts with two uprights on either end, which were squat racks, monkey bars down the middle, and 2 wings coming off the sides, as I've said earlier. And I would say, well, all you need to do is 12 nuts and bolts, take them out, drop it onto a double pallet, ship it anywhere you want to go in the world, have another pallet full of accessories, and, you've got yourself a full gym there. But it was one day while I was in the workshop, I was still very heavily involved with the manufacturing and the welding side of the house as well, as getting out and seeing the customers and seeing the different people within the Army. And we were building a wall-mounted rig, and I leant it against a container. I thought, this is perfect. What about a container gym? So came up with a pretty agricultural, rough idea of having all the external rigging of the gym being able to compact inside the container and have a nice, neat place, and then have all your bumper plates, have your bars, have your setup for all your accessories in there. And this was back in 2012. And at the time, I had a contact in the Army School of Physical Training down in Aldershot. And I rung him up and said, look, I've got this idea. I'd love to pitch it to you, but I don't want to be really salesy, but I'd love you to see it and have your feedback. So we drove it down there, we set this thing up, and quite a few guys came out, they looked at it, asked loads of questions, and said, this is, interesting concept, but can we use it for a demo purpose? And I said, of course, what do you have in mind? And they said, well, in the Olympic Games was going on at the time, and G4S had actually cancelled doing the security, so they'd pulled in the Army, and the Army had a makeshift camp just outside London. They had no gym, so it was the perfect opportunity to test it firsthand in a proper area with 3,000 troops, and see what the feedback was. Luckily, it was a lovely summer, so the guys and girls were using it hard, and the feedback was really, really positive. So from there, the Army ordered, I think it was 20 or something straight off the back.
So they are ISO containers? ISO
containers. These were 10-foot containers, where the rigging all...
Is that a standard size?
No, we have 5 foot, which are like quad cons. The US Marine Corps use them. 10 foot. 10 foot, 20 foot. And then there are some specialist ones that the US use.
Oh, sorry. Is it a standard ISO container size, or do you have to fabricate them specifically?
No, standard ISO size.
Yeah.
But they come in different sizes.
Yeah, there's different size ISO
exactly,
containers, but you can buy them off the shelf and then you go in and modify.
Correct, yeah. So we'll make them, we'll take a nice standard ISO container, and then we'll get all of the equipment that we're going to use from it. We call them internals and externals. The internals is where everything holds, and it's the shelves and it's the brackets to put all the externals on while it deploys. And then when it gets there, you take all the externals off the internals and bolt it to the side of the container. So the container's also the sort of mounting piece for it as well.
Well, I mean, perfect, really. It's a crazy. The eureka moment was you just propping something up.
Yeah. I mean, we were just sitting there. I just thought, this is a pretty simple product, to be honest, but actually perfect for and exactly what's needed. And you can get everything inside it. You just take it wherever you want to. Literally within an hour, you can build it out and you've got yourself a full working gym. The interesting part was when whoever it was had these first batch of containers that we built and manufactured for the MOD, they took them to Bryce Norton to deploy. But there's a part within Bryce Norton called JAD 2, which is everything to do with flying. And then we realized that actually everything needs to be bolted down and signed off, and it needs to be weighted correctly. So there's quite a lot more to it as we went along that we didn't really realize at the time.
Simple things, or when you look from the outside, they look easy. Essentially, they're simple and very, very complex.
That's the thing, yeah, absolutely. And it's the little parts of it that make it so easy, and that's what we try to do. And actually, it was the time that when we did it as well, we had no really idea of what we were doing, so we built it out, and then we applied for intellectual property on this thing as well. So we've now got very strong IP in America, and that's allowed us to grow in the US, which sort of goes back to your question on 2014 with the US. At the time, there was a company selling suspension trainers. They were going around the army as well. They had military ones in particular.
It's like strapping.
Straps, exactly. And they obviously needed an anchor piece to put these to put their straps onto. They had some funky rig thing that they used to put out there, but they definitely saw big potential in what we were doing, BeaverFit were doing with the UK MOD. So they took the concept and proposed it to as the US Marine Corps at the time, and said, "Look, we've got this new product, fully deployable gym. You can take it anywhere around the world, and you can do multiple training aspects of it: strength and conditioning, functional training, group training, whatever it was. And we can also add all our straps in there." So they got a lot of interest from the US Marine Corps, and we basically got in touch with us and said, "Look, we've got this opportunity over here. Do you fancy working with us to deliver it for the US?" So that's kind of how we got into the whole US Army scene and US Marines.
And that's taken off, has it? And these gyms in the US now?
Yes.
What was the first batch then?
So the first batch was we got an order through this company for the US Marines. We hadn't thought out any logistics for this at all. I think it was about 50 containers. So it was the biggest order we'd ever had. And we thought maybe in our naivety that we'd build them all in the UK and ship them into wherever they were going. But then suddenly realised shipping prices were going to kill it. We weren't going to make anything out of the thing. So we had to come up with a concept where we manufactured all the steelwork in the UK on the farm in Shropshire. We then shipped it to the west coast of America. We found to Long Beach, California. We found a container yard. We bought all our containers in the US. We then, as the steelwork came into the yard, we flew over with a team from the UK, worked with a group of US guys and Mexicans, and basically spent a month putting containers together, just proper grunt work, just drilling holes in the containers, assembling container gyms, getting all the accessories, unpacking them, loading these containers up and shipping them out. And if I'm being honest, it was probably the best month of work I've ever had. Absolutely loved it.
And then by this point, do you feel like you're, in brackets, a businessman, or are you still a fabricator welder who's got a product?
I think, to be honest, beginning to see that there's a pretty big potential here. I never really look at myself like a businessman. I do something that I massively enjoy. I have a great team that work with us, where everyone's got each other's back from the UK and the US side. And I mean, if I get a chance to get back in and do some, it wouldn't be very pretty, but I'd happily get stuck into wherever we are within the business. I love to go on an install or whatever it is, as much as I'll go and see clients.
2016, but 2015, you demerged?
Yeah, so about 2015, the bridges and the fitness side came to a point where we were really just sort of fighting for resources within the company. And so we just sort of said, let's have a much cleaner split. So my brother took the bridge side, and he's doing really well with it. and myself and my dad carries on with the fitness side of the house.
And then so there's been an evolution as well. And one of the interesting things, so we met today and we were chatting a little bit before, and I suppose I was asking, everything you do seems to be with purpose and there's a reason for it. You just haven't bolted a load of metal to the side of an ISO container or threw a rig up for no reason. How do you ensure that people are getting the right thing for them?
I think everything for the company has been done working with the end user. So we spend a lot of time working with the end user, understanding the requirement first and foremost, and then we'll go back to the drawing boards, come up with a concept, and we have a lot of back and forth with end users on majority of everything we do, actually, process wise, and then we pull it together and try and make sure that it fits their requirement, whether that's having a retractable rig that needs to go back into the wall, or whether it's having a rope climbing unit, of a certain height, or whatever it is that's needed from assault courses through to simple racks. So, that's the model of what we do. We like to get in there, work with the end users, and deliver them really what they need, not what we feel they need.
Can you tell me the story about you was working with a specialist unit, and they specifically wanted the heart rate to be raised.
So we set up part of the company. It splits from human performance into special operations now. So we've got a side of our company, BeaverFit, that is very much focused around tactical training rather than human performance side of fitness training. How that started was one of the specialist units. They particularly enjoyed working off our container gyms. They'd been out in different war zones with them. They've got them on camp. They were used to working with them, but they also wanted to train under high heart rate, under pressure, and under fatigue. So basically, we took one of our mobile units into this camp, and let them work with training off this unit. Then go and do some sort of breaching and then some shooting off the back of it. And what that basically merged into was, we like the idea of having a fitness container that can have apertures in for shooting through, that could have doors inside for method of entry, that maybe has a fast rope area into it and a caving ladder. So skill sets that they needed, and then they could put it onto a 360 shooting range or whatever it was. So that was a sort of classic example of how someone could see a need within the unit, and then we tried to do our best to fulfill the need, working with them, listening to what they needed, and then putting it all together.
And what comes off the back of that then? As in, that was a very specific job. How do you then productize that? Do you do that, or is everything bespoke?
Well, no, to be fair, that one was a one-off, but then moving forward, we've now taken that concept, refined it numerous times over, working with different units across the world. And then now we have got that particular one is called a range locker. And within the range locker, we have, we've got unstable platforms. We've got areas which go up and down to get different elevations from, and different things. So we will take something and we'll refine it and make it into a much more commercial product, if you like. But that's not to say that very often the end user says, I want that like it is. Normally they'll say, I like that, but I'd like to add this into it or that into it. Or so they normally become quite personalised and quite custom.
Well, that's the beauty, I suppose, when working with metal. It can be doing that. It's so robust, and you can, as when you got your skilled team there to develop and get
exactly.
it.
I mean, I think one of our biggest strengths is our design team within the company. We've got a fantastic design team, and they really take someone's concept and bring it to life. Sales guy will go out and work with the end user, but then our engineers have to then say, okay, that's a concept. How do we actually bring this into reality? Because there's a huge difference between, this is a nice design, everyone likes it, and then actually delivering what they've just designed. So that's always a huge challenge for us.
The word functional fitness gets mentioned a lot, doesn't it? Especially over the last, 10 years, and performance and these things. But, when you look at it, what is it really? Throwing a kettlebell round, but you mentioned it there. This is these jobs that require us to be fit and fit for task, and it's very specific with how we work. And but also you've got being a dad. What does functional fitness, being a 35-year-old dad, like what does functional fitness mean to you? What and what are the benefits of it?
I think functional fitness covers a multitude of training, to be honest. And it's some would say maybe it's task related. So your job is X, so you need to train like this to do your job. But or for me, it's having a fitness regime that covers everything. So you are good if you're doing one thing or you're doing another thing. You're covered in all areas. So you're not particularly focusing on chest or legs. You're doing something that actually covers the whole body. And then no matter what's thrown in front of you, you're good to go. And you're more prepared for it. You're more robust. You're less injuries. And it covers that whole aspect of training.
I've become, and over a period of time, like my background is military and then fire service, but I found myself, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, of everything I do, every training session, if I'm running to the gym, I'll be thinking, okay, it sounds, I don't know if it sounds daft, but I think, would this be able to save someone's life? Would it be able to save my life? Or could I get away from someone if there was a situation? And that's how I'm going to train when I arrive at this gym, or when I get back, I'm going to do some pull-ups, and that's why I'm going to do it, because of these reasons, not just
going in for body beautiful.
Massive guns, obviously, is beneficial, but that's how I've changed over the years. Going, this is why I need to do this, because if I'm in a situation, it's on the M1 or down my street, I want to be able to deal with something as best as I can be, unlimited time to train. Going on from there, we look at business, and we look at community and culture. What is it about BeaverFit that is special to work with and work around?
Good question. I think from my perspective, we have a pretty unique culture within the company. There's a heavy element on fitness within the company, as you probably expect. There's also a heavier element of veteran and veterans within the company as well. And for us, it's more than just the job. It's about actually everyone focusing on task and the satisfaction of eventually delivering what someone's come up with, someone's imagined, and bringing that to life. We've got a pretty unique thing within the company in the UK in particular, where we do a monthly marathon. So we live in the hills in Shropshire. It's a beautiful area, and it's open to anyone. It started with a lot more people, and it's declined quite a lot actually. Maybe it's the months that we're in at the minute. But actually, you'd rock up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go over the hills for normally about 6 hours, and then back at your desk around 11ish, something like that. But it's a pretty unique thing, and for myself, it gives me a time. I find it pretty cool because I can work with lads that I don't speak to at all within the month. I've done reviews, yearly reviews, and it puts a sort of leveler for everyone. And also you get to see how people are under, when things get a bit tougher and so on. And yeah, I find that pretty special, to be honest.
And evolve, I'm sure, as well, how people are evolving and becoming.
Absolutely. I mean, you see some guys who have come, they're welder fabricators, never done a marathon in their life, never thought they would. And then you go through that first marathon with them, they come in, they never do that again. But then the next month, there they are, ready to go. And it's, that's pretty good way of doing it. And sometimes we'll invite people we're working with or just friends of the business, people who are really good runners or not good runners. But yeah, that's quite interesting. And then outside of that, we're very close, to be honest.
You inadvertently pointed at me when you said not so good runners there.
Yeah, sorry. No, I didn't. That's me, actually.
Yeah. What's going on right now? What projects are being worked on?
So in the UK, we've got a really big project that we're working on with the Field Army, where we're delivering around 40 gyms across the UK Army for where basically people have been coming back from Germany, people have been coming back off different tours, and gyms just haven't had big enough gyms, but also focusing on strength and conditioning. So the training is changing with inside. So you're finding now where we're putting proper shelters in, full of power racks, full of bumper plates and bars, and very functional but big open areas, so they can do functional movements and strength and conditioning training. And we've been rolling those out for about the last 12 months, and that's been a really interesting but also positive impact going into the army, where we've just been delivering these, and it's been a very, very quick turnaround. Pretty unusual, actually, how quickly we've gone in, and then 6 weeks later we've pretty much delivered a gym. So it's been, luckily for us, we've been working with some really exceptional people within the army who have been fully behind this and actually very passionate about it as well. And then our team have just been driving super hard on it.
You supply, you support, you are, I suppose, a foundation of a lot of organisations, departments, brigades, whether that's fire, military, the list goes on and on and on. Are you proud to support those that serve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big part for us, and it's a massive thing really to support the guys who are out there doing the jobs, not easy jobs either, and seeing the benefits for mental health as well from training, and the day-to-day becomes part of their lives. And it's I think within the army or the military, it's same with the fire brigade and the police. It's becoming bigger and bigger, this training culture. We're super proud with it.
I mean, you do and support so much as well, and I think you do a lot of it under the radar, where people don't, whether it's a mental health campaign, and you've supported fit ops in the US,
yes,
with equipment. Is that not from BeaverFit, but from you? Is that a big part of this? Is not just profit, but the value you bring?
Yeah, it's a massive part, to be honest. And working with really quite incredible people, and working with them, putting in state of the art strength and conditioning complexes, which actually is going to benefit someone who is struggling from day to day has seen a lot of action and needs to release it somewhere, but doesn't have the facilities. I think it's really, really important. You touched on FitOps there. We're working with them in the US. That's an organization for suicide prevention. Is one of their big things. And we've got a guy now who's working with us, who's heading that up for the UK as well. We're fully behind it, and it's been amazing to see and hear the feedback as people are getting involved with it. We put a large shelter solution with a big strength and conditioning facility inside it, and I think that's probably one of the best things that they've got there, and they use it, and that whole thing is built around, as they come out of the military, training, working out, and is this something they're going to do and take forward into life as they transition?
Sport and fitness can really heal, but it's not just that. I think and I've looked from afar for a while, and you look at organisations like Reorg or the civilian stuff you do, and this ISO container comes down and there's fitness kit on it, right? That's the bare bones. But what it does is it adds as a focal point. Maybe I'm wrong here, but people come together, and they're you've said it multiple times. People are sharing the kit, they're moving around the kit, they're with each other, And I think
becomes competitive with each other and supportive as well. A bit like a team.
Yeah, exactly. You're growing together because you're you're around a hub. You're around. You then a community forms through things like hardship and good times, and when someone's puking in the corner and all that, and the beer afterwards, or I think it's somewhat more than just a metal frame. There's a community element to it, and I think it brings people together. I think the culture of your company brings people together. And Tom, I've really enjoyed today. Thank you so much, mate, and we'll leave it there.
Thank you very much.